everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Devil's Advocate Trades Edition. With me today is Adam Windsor, and him and I are gonna have a wonderful conversation today about a few different things. Adam works for an amazing company, and he helps people in the trades to make amazing financial decisions for themselves and their families based on some things that have happened to him. So I'm gonna let Adam go ahead and tell you a little bit about himself. So welcome to the show, Adam.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So yeah, you kind of leaned into it a little bit. I have this business where I, educate Canadians about the banking system. My what would you say? My specialty, I would call it, is trades. Being a former trades guy myself, I was a welder for many years. I was in construction for holy smokes, was it 15 or 16 years out of high school there, and back in 2020, great time for a career change right before the pandemic.
Right.
But I had a near fatal like a month or two before the big shutdown. And, I know we've chatted before, but I've got a wife, I have a daughter, I have two kids, I have two daughters, I have a 6 and a 9-year-old. And anyone listening can probably relate to the fact that, when you go through something that extreme, it kind of forces you to reevaluate where you are and where you're going. And to put it bluntly, I wasn't happy where I was going. I needed to make a big shift, and finance really fell into my lap, right? Because over the process of my recovery, I had to kind of take a step back and look at our whole situation and be like, man, what could I be doing differently? Right? I was tired of that, I would say the 9 to 5, like a lot of guys out there, they're working their 7 to 3s or 7 to 4s, whatever it is. And nobody teaches us what to do with our money.
No.
They teach me how to put up a wall. They teach me how to weld my beams. They teach me how to do the job and build the project, but nobody teaches you what to do with the money that you work so hard to make.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of where I really leaned in. I'm like, man, there's an opportunity here to help more people who are just like me and you.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, it's been a really fun ride. But I don't know. I'm not sure how much longer you want me to talk. You gotta cut me off or I'll go on tangents here.
No, that's okay. And I mean, that's why I created the podcast, is I wanted a platform for you guys to be able to go off on these tangents and have conversations. And it's just a conversation, right? And I mean, I don't know, are you willing to share what happened when you're in your welding job?
Yeah, you bet. So we were doing this really cool build. It was really cool. So we were doing it, and there was a steel patio coming out of these people's backyard, right? It was out in White Rock. It was kind of going over it was right on the water. So it was kind of going over the cliff a little bit. Mm-hmm. And it was a steel deck. And then we were building it around this huge tree. So this massive tree was going to come up through the middle of this thing.
Cool.
Super cool. I'm like, man, this is actually pretty awesome. So we were reinforcing the patio itself with knee braces, and when we were hoisting the material up into place, the winch we were using, it came loose, and I was standing under it. Right? So it kind of smacked me right on the top of my head, and the doctors were very, I didn't think anything of it at the time, and then you go to the hospital, you get checked out, and the doctors are like, oh, so how big was this thing? How much did it weigh? And they're like, you're the 1 out of 100 who walks away to tell the story.
Oh, wow.
They're like, 99% people don't walk away from this, which was the best thing someone could hear, but it was also the worst thing. I don't know if anyone can relate to that, because now you're stuck going, man, if I'm the 1 out of 100 who actually made it through this, what am I here for? Right? What is my purpose? If I'm here, if I'm the one who walked away, what is my purpose? There's something bigger ahead of me. Right. And that was a hard thing to carry for a long time.
That was a survivor's guilt, right?
Yeah, 100%.
That's what it is. It's a form of survivor's guilt. Because if you say, like you said, right, if I'm the 1 in a million, then what the hell? Right. So why am I living through this? What is the lesson? What am I supposed to be doing? Absolutely. So, I mean, you said it struck you on the head.
Yeah.
Okay, and then
we're on the top here.
Oh wow. Okay, and so then
right on the mohawk.
Right in the mohawk. You're lucky it didn't mess up and put a dent there, and then and then the mohawk would kind of grow a little, have like a little stair, like Stairway to Heaven, right?
Well,
But so tell me something. So you, I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of guys in trades that go through this where they have these life altering incidences where it's not a fatality, and it's or they haven't witnessed anything, but they've physically gone through it. Now, your road to recovery, like what exactly were the injuries, if you don't mind telling us, that you sustained, and what was the road ahead? Because that can't be easy, especially going through COVID. Like, God.
Yeah, COVID. all the treatments that they wanted me to do, like I say, they WorkSafe, right? So all the treatments that WorkSafe and my doctor wanted me to do, they were all shut down because, like I said, we're talking like 6 weeks before the world locked down. Is when all this happened, right? So
Wow.
the big injury was like a major concussion. This was like my third. It was like my third big one over my adulthood, I guess. But then the impact from the winch, it like based on I'm going off what the doctors are telling me, right? But they're like it kind of compressed all the cartilage in your spine. Right, so they're like, maybe it puffs back, maybe it doesn't. They're like, it's hard to say, right? But they're like, we know that a lot of it is squished, and it hurt. Don't get me wrong, it hurts every day. It hurts all the time. But the biggest battle that you had to overcome was the mental side of things, the emotional. Because now you're like, holy crap, I don't know about anyone who's listening, but all I had known up to that point was being a trades guy, tying up my boots, throwing on my coveys, and going to work. And that was the hardest thing to overcome, was just that identity of, this is what I've been for so long. How can I make a change at this point? Like, holy smoke. And I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I think I was 32 when it all happened.
Jesus.
Right? And then you kind of learn. I was doing the death scroll on Instagram one night, and I came across this awesome reel of all these, famous individuals, these celebrities, and it was giving info about when they had their big break. So and so didn't make their big break until they were 40. This person didn't get their big role till they were 35, 45, whatever it was. And I'm like, damn, these people worked at it and didn't reach gold until they were further along. So I'm like, what's stopping me? Right? I'm like, what's stopping me from making this big change? I let go of my fear of failure at that time, and I'm like, I'm gonna jump into something. I'm gonna blaze a new path for myself, and I'm just gonna carve a new path for me and my family. So when you kind of get introduced into like the finance field, it was I kind of took on a new challenge, because you look around the room and I'm like, man, everybody is so well put together. Everybody's like, got nice clean beards. Their hair is done well. And I was just like, man, I am not going to fit the mold. So I'm going to change the damn mold. Right?
Yeah.
That was yeah. Anyway, those are just some of the mindsets going into, career change, and just being willing to, if I'm willing to fail at something, where can it get me? If it's only a failure if you actually quit because of it, but if you fail and learn from the lesson, you're much better equipped for that next step.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely, and that's I tell a lot of people that. I tell my kids that you only fail when you quit. You fall 7 times, you get a 8. That's how it works. Keep going. Failure 100%. is, what is it? The first attempt at learning, or something like that?
Yeah.
Something like that. So I always tell them, I always say to my kiddos, you only fail when you stop. Now, don't misunderstand me. There are some things that are not supposed to be a part of your path. And you saying, you know what, this isn't for me and I don't want to do this anymore, is not the same as failure. It's appreciating and understanding that this no longer serves you. That's different. So don't stay with something because you're scared to fail at it. stay with something because you're seeing purpose in it. It's bringing you purpose. It's bringing other people purpose. It's bringing something. There has to be an exchange. There has to be that reciprocity, right? Has to be something there. With you, there is. You found something after what all you knew was welding and being a trades guy, and then you jumped into something else and you said, "Oh my God, I can't do this. I'm not like them." But here's the best part. That's what makes you really good at it. Because you're not them. You're the guy that is in the trades. And yes, you may have molded your clay a little differently on the exterior, but inside you're still a tradesman. So you're going to get through to those, to those boys that put their boots on every day and are hustling, and the women that are putting their boots on every day and hustling and doing the grind. And you're going to sit down with them and you're going to say, "Hey, I was you. And this is what I learned now because I went through this. And had I known then what I know now, maybe my family wouldn't have, suffered a little bit financially because I would have been in a really good spot because I would have done these investments for myself. And it's never too late to do these investments now."
Right.
And because I'm also a client with the financial institution that you work with. I have my own agent. I started with an amazing agent, and then she left, and then it went to her higher up, and he was a jackass and I don't like him. So I left and took all my products and services over to another company. And then I met another agent out of your firm. And I just adore her. And so I said, "Well, I'll move some of these products back." And I did. I moved some products back, and I took some more products out for myself and my kids. And I'm not crazy on the design of the marketing aspect of it, but it's people generated, and the products are good products. So people, you can't, like, when you're sitting down having those conversations, I think the best thing that I tell people when they're like, "Oh my God, you're with this company," and I'm like, "Listen, they have a bad stigma because it's considered a multi-level marketing, but the reality is the products are good. And you just have to get yourself a good representative because it is people generated. So find your person that works, because if you don't find the person that makes you happy and that you understand and that respects what you need and hears you the way you need them to hear you, it's not going to work and it's not going to be for you." So, and I'm like, there's lots of reps around. It's just a matter of finding the one that fits. So that's why I say, because you're the guy that did the trade, that is a tradesman at heart, that speaks trade, that still, still probably talks to a lot of the guys in the trade. I mean, like, that's a skill on its own. You gotta know that. Like, the fact that I can speak trade means that you and I can probably make jokes about things that most people won't get.
Yeah.
Or we will find things funny that most people won't find funny, and it's funny because I sit there and I mean, like, even like my significant others in the trades. And so we have these like little conversations where some people are like, "Why are you upset about that?" And I'm like, "What? What?" And I'm like, there's a reason that there's like little phrases like measure twice, cut once. There's reasons for that. So when we watch a greenhorn measure once and then try to cut it twice and then it's scrap, we laugh. We're like, "You never heard the phrase measure twice, cut once?" And they're like, well, that's just dumb. That wastes time instead of wasting material. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, who's paying for that? Because eventually it's going to come out of your paycheck.
Totally.
My favorite is I say it on this, it's funny because the younger guys don't understand it. I'm thinking you will understand it. But I always say when people are like, "Hey, Lisa, can I do this?" I'm like, "Yeah, fill your boots." And some of them just stand there. They're like, "With what?" And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Fill my boots with what?" And I'm like, "Oh my God."
Concrete.
Right? Right? Yeah, go fill your boots with concrete. Come back, talk to me. Yeah. Don't worry, there's going to be a guy comes in a van, his name's Vinny, he's going to come pick you up.
It's like that joke when people are out on the rigs and you say, "Oh, go find me the skyhook."
Yep.
Right, and then they'll go around all the tool sheds looking for this one thing that doesn't even exist.
It's true. We're all bad for it, and every trade has that. Plumbers have that, and Sparkies have that. They all have that one thing that they get the greenhorn to go look for that doesn't exist, and they're just like, I couldn't find it, and you can't help but just be like.
For us, it was the steel expander.
Go
get the expander.
Those are brats. And these poor greenhorns are just like, what? I can't find it. And they're just losing their like mother, like ever loving minds. Just like, if I don't come back with this, these guys are gonna make fun of me. And meanwhile, we're like, most people are just sitting there being like, look, he's
You're
got
getting
too
the
much
work
pride.
done.
He's not coming back without it.
You're getting
And
the
then
work done faster.
right? Yeah, yeah. So, but I think that's a great thing what you're doing, Adam, that you've got this amazing light inside of you that just
Mm,
wants to help people. And that is an amazing thing, because when you experience what you did, and being told something that like you said, on the grand scheme is like the nicest, is like the best thing you can hear and the worst thing all at once. Because it's like, okay, I'm here. I get to go home to my family. I get to try this again.
mm,
But then the overwhelming of, what am I trying? Because I can't do that.
yeah.
And then to move over to something completely different, but not only to move over to something completely different, but to adopt it, to make it your own, to focus on trade
Mm,
is amazing, because a lot of people will just go after anybody, right? It's like, oh,
can't
you
do
need
it.
this, you need this, you need this. Whereas you're like, no, I'm going to focus on this industry because I know this industry. I bleed this industry. I breathe this industry. And
Mm,
I'm not going to leave them behind, because a lot of these people will get these junk insurances. You know what I'm talking about, right? Junk
yeah.
insurances, where it's like the bank's like, oh, well, accidental death. Bullshit. I'm going to tell you a story. My dad had accidental death through his bank. Okay. I'm not going to name any institutions. Don't need anyone coming at me.
Mm,
So, but when my dad passed away, my dad fell down his stairs. Okay. And he broke his neck, dissected the artery in his neck to his brain.
holy smokes.
He was 73 years old. Took him 30 minutes to revive it via ambulance, which he was a DNR. They didn't know that. I knew that. My mom called me, and all she had said was, because my mom and dad were divorced, but everybody kind of called my mom because they knew they still got along. So my mom called me and said, Dad's on his way to the hospital with an ambulance. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to check it out. And I was like, in that moment, I just knew something was wrong. Normally I was like, yeah, Mom, let me know, make sure Dad's okay. That's fine. This time I was like, nope, I'm on my way. They're going to tell you nothing. You are not next of kin.
Mm,
Called my brother on the way to the airport. On the way to the hospital. I called my brother because my brother's in Ontario, and we're in Alberta. And called them and said, I'm headed to the hospital. Something happened to Dad. I don't think it's good. I got a bad feeling. And my brother knows that when I say that, he's staying by his phone, because it's not something I do often. And so got to the hospital and went through everything with all of that. And I remember, and of course I pulled the plug on my dad. He's 73 years old. He's got arthritis. He doesn't have the greatest of life. He's not truly happy anymore. He's an alcoholic. There's lots of things going on. And I just said, and not only that, but he broke his neck in 3 to 4 different places, dissected the artery. Like, we're talking massive, like, quality of life toast. Yeah.
right.
And that's even if he's not brain dead. So I just said, no, we're done. And I, with my brother, we both agreed that we weren't going to let my dad suffer, and we weren't going to let him come back like that. So, when we went through insurance, they tried to fight us because he had a blood alcohol level of 3 times the legal limit. I said he wasn't driving. And they're like, oh, well, in our policy, if you have any alcohol in your system, the policy is null and void. I said, no, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, so you're telling me that if an airplane crashed in my backyard and I was having a beer while I was barbecuing and I got incinerated, that it wouldn't cover it because I had a beer in my system? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, too bad. My dad bought this insurance at this time, which means you guys did a bait and switch. I'm not pulling this crap. My brother and I went after the insurance company massively. They ended up paying out. They didn't pay out what at that point, what we were asking for and what they paid out were 2 different things, but we weren't angry. The fact was is that they were trying to fall on a blood alcohol level when it had nothing to do with it. It was an accidental death. Period.
Yeah.
So these junk insurances will try and sell you on this, that, and the other thing, but you have to read all the fine print. Like, can you believe it? If you have alcohol in your system at the time of death, it's null and void. How many people do you know will just have a drink in their backyard or will have a drink after work. They're not even driving. They're camping. And something comes charging through their campsite. Meanwhile, they've had a few beers. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, null and void. Had a few beers. You're like, he got stalked by a moose. Like, what are you talking about? A bear came charging in. Like, what? What? You know.
The bear ate my garbage. The bear had a blood alcohol level.
Right? Right? Well, when he was done, I mean, you know. But still, I mean, for me, I find it really interesting, these little stupid clauses that they put into these insurances, which is why I call them junk insurances. And so when people understand that those aren't going to do anything for you, they're just there to make, and that's why they're so cheap. That's why they're like $5, $6, $13 a month.
It's not always even the product, but even like the rep, they don't know what they're doing sometimes. The amount of times I've had to go back and fix crappy plans for people, like not just the like the products or anything, but like even like people's investments. Yeah. Right? Like the stuff that really makes a difference. You're like, man, why are you investing in this? Yeah. Why are you getting your 3% or 4%? Well, this is what they had. There's so many better options. Yes. Right? Which is like, this is like the biggest perk. This is like it's one of my favorite perks about what I do. It's like you partner up with a group where you can actually provide premium quality products that would only be accessible for the wealthy. And you make it accessible for the everyday person. And that's like the biggest thing. It's the analogy I use for all this, anyone who's listening, if I go to a bank and I say, guys, I want to set up a TFSA, they're going to fill it up with the stuff that make them money. It may not be the best investment for you, but it's the best one for them. Mm-hmm. Right? And I use this analogy of like a burger. If I go into a McDonald's saying, guys, I want a cheeseburger, guess what? They're going to sell me a Big Mac. Mm-hmm. They're not going to say, you want the best burger, sir? You should go down the street to Five Guys or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. For me, it's Five Guys. I don't know.
I love Five Guys. But it depends on the location of the Five Guys. Like the one down south, like off of Deerfoot Meadows, I'm talking about, over by the IKEA. Yeah. That's the best Five Guys. That's the best Five Guys.
I've driven past it. I haven't stopped in that one.
Oh my God, stop in there. They make the best. I've had Five Guys in Airdrie. I'm not a fan. So if Airdrie hears it, they're gonna be like, listen, Lisa. Yeah. I love Airdrie, but I'm sorry, like pick up your game. I've had the Five Guys down on 32nd, not bad, but the one by far that takes the cake is the one in Deerfoot Meadows. Amazing. Okay. They do a great job, those people over there. So I'm putting it on my list. Putting it on my list. Right? Have you tried Fatburger? I haven't tried it yet. I heard it's delicious.
I tried it like back in my welding days, but it was okay. It was fine.
It was okay. Get on the topic of burgers. Where's the best burger joint?
This is taking an interesting turn.
Sometimes sometimes you got to know where the best burgers are. I mean, like I know where I like to eat sushi. So I mean, like if people ask me, I'm not going to tell them to go to the most expensive place. I'm going to tell them to go to Fusion on McKnight Boulevard in Edmonton.
Especially, like it's funny because it's one of those little, I don't know. That's like one of the fun little perks of working trades is that you're always in different areas. Yep. Right, you're always in different areas. You kind of get to scout out these new places. Be like, oh man, I remember this one hole in the wall joint where they made the best sandwiches.
Me too.
And people are like, what? Like, when were you out here? You're like, oh, I was working on a job just down the street. Mm-hmm. You're like, trust me, let's just go in here.
It's true because there's so many places and areas that I've worked in, and it's always like the little hole in the wall or like the little delis and like the little mom and pop shops, and they make the best food. And there's so many of them downtown. So many of them. And I remember when I did a huge project downtown, and there was this little mom and pop shop just straight up 12th. And I would get them to make the guys breakfast sandwiches, and the guys loved them. They were like sausage and bacon or double sausage, and they love and egg sandwiches in the morning. I was like, we're doing a safety meeting. It's going to take approximately half an hour, so I'm buying you breakfast sandwiches so I don't lose you halfway through. And they were just like, okay. So
perfect.
But go ahead.
But yeah, it's like at the end of the day, though, it's like, how do you afford this stuff? You got to know your finances. is.
Can you eat burgers for lunch every day? Let's look at your budget.
Yeah, let's budget this out.
But you know what though? Trades are bad for that. You guys are always running around. Guys, like when I say guys, I mean men and women that are in trades. We're always eating out, right? Because it's quick. It's like most sites, they don't give you an hour; they give you half an hour. So it's like, get out and get it. And I hate eating just the same old monotonous garbage fast food. I wanna go somewhere where it's a little bit healthier. Because you're looking at yourself and you're like, Jesus, I've had like McDonald's like 4 times this week and it's gross at this point, right?
Or in some cases, it's like guys are getting their lunches at the gas stations when they're filling up their welders.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we're here, might as well grab stuff for lunch. You're like, cool, I've got this muffin that's been sitting here for 3 weeks. A bag of Cheetos and a chocolate milk.
Right? Well, it was a funny story. So my other half would go in and he'd do that sometimes, right? He'd grab stuff from the convenience or from 7-Eleven. And I was like, you're going to hurt your tummy. You're not going to make it to the bathroom. Don't trust a fart if you're eating food from there. And he's like, shut up, it'll be fine. And then he'll eat it. And then he'll be like, sitting there, be like, oh God, my stomach hurts so bad. And I'm like, weird.
Like,
how did that happen?
If only there was someone there to warn you.
Oh God, who knew the 7-Eleven taquitos wouldn't sit well? Weird. He's gonna kill me.
It's funny. Only if you're in the field would you totally understand all of that.
Right? But true. And then of course, energy drinks are like the start, middle, and end of the day drink. I don't think I know one tradesperson that's not walking around with at least a few energy drinks in their vehicle.
Yeah, no kidding. The guy you used to work with, he would do rock stars. Mm-hmm. Rock stars or Monster. I can't remember which one it was at the time, but nonstop.
Yep.
And then he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna get off the energy drinks," and I'm like, "Okay, sounds good." He's like, I need you to keep me accountable. And I'm like, if I see you with an energy drink, I'll slap it out of your hand. He shows up with a 24-pack of Pepsi the next day. And I'm like, I don't think you get the point here. He's like, hey, at least it's not a rock star. I'm like, you're missing the point.
And you know what? I'm going to tell you something so funny. So I learned this while I was boots on the ground with the guys. Large percentage of tradespeople are ADHD. Very large percentage. Which makes sense because they're the people who construct our buildings and our villages and whatnot in our cities. They actually construct them. So they have a different mind, they have a different eye, and they see things differently for the most part. But rock stars and monsters and all that with the amount of caffeine that's in them actually regulates a lot of ADHD people where they calms them down.
Interesting.
Right? If you know anything about ADHD, they talk about where caffeine is a stimulant to a lot of us, it actually helps regulate them. And I was like, oh. And so it made more sense when I was on site with these guys and they're all drinking like, Red Bull and Rockstar and Monster and whatever, Bang, whatever the hell else. And I was like, because I used to say them, I was like, you could probably clean your truck chrome with that crap. And they were like, well, I'm cleaning up my gut. Or you always get the ones that are like, I'm built different. And I'm like, yeah, you can put a hole in your stomach. You're real built different. But I mean, it does. It regulates a lot of them. I'm not promoting energy drinks at the capacity that they are being consumed by some of these guys. Not by any stretch. But I will condone the fact that, yes, a lot of times, a few energy drinks throughout the day is what helps regulates them. As long as you're eating properly and drinking water in between, I'm not here to tell. I'm not your mother. I'm not going to tell you what you got to do. You do you.
Absolutely. Sorry.
No good. No. I get it. I got to drink. I mean, that's, but yeah.
I remember, so going back, I remember this. So a lady at our church, she came up and she was like, hey, my son is getting into welding, and she's like, do you have anything, is there anything that you can give him to help him along his path? Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, I think I got a couple things. So showed up next week, and it was like my entire toolbox. Right, so
Aw.
I give her the whole toolbox, and I'm like if anybody asks your son, I'm like, can he start today? I'm like, with this, I'm like, yes, he can. I'm like, respectfully, I'm like, I'm gonna keep my helmet. I keep it behind me on my shelf over here, just
Mhm.
as a I don't know,
Keepsake.
memento,
Yeah,
right?
a keepsake.
But I'm like, respectfully, I'm gonna keep my helmet. But I'm like, if anyone asks your son if he could start, I'm like, yes, he can. I'm like, everything he needs is in there, and I remember that moment of handing it all over. I actually got a little emotional after the fact because it was
Mhm.
literally like the chapter is now closed,
Yeah.
right? I remember coming home and I told my wife, I'm like, yeah, I'm actually feeling a little like a little wah,
Yeah, like a little sad. Yeah, you're
but
closing that chapter
it
that
was
you did for somebody. It's all you knew.
it was exactly it was a big moment.
100%
But
it was.
I
100%
remember
it was.
she called me and she's like, what do I owe you? What I owe you for this? I'm like, you don't owe me anything. And she's
Oh.
like, well, she's like, ask you I wouldn't ask you to give my son things if I didn't intend on paying you for it. And I'm like, I wouldn't give my stuff to you if I was expecting you to pay for it. I'm like, just take it, I'm like, pay it forward. Someone else can benefit from all this, right? Like
Mhm.
take the money and use it on someone else. Buy the kid a helmet or whatever it
Yeah.
is. But
Mhm.
anyway, I don't know why that was just on my heart. I'm like, I feel like I need to share
No, I think that's amazing. I love that, Adam. You know what? And you're right. It's paying it forward. It's closing a chapter. It's feeling the emotions of knowing that this side of you is done.
Mm,
That you're never going to go back and be a welder. And that's hard because you know what? A lot of us, that's where hoarding comes from, right? People are like, it means too much to me. It means too much to me. It wasn't serving you anymore. And you were providing it an opportunity to somebody else who's getting into the trade to say, here's some of the best tools you're going to need in order to start.
mm-hmm.
Here's your chance. Go be something amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it worked out for me until, until something stepped in, until fate stepped in the way and said, you need to be doing something different. But for
Mm-hmm.
you, this might be your journey for the rest of your life. And hey, if I can help be that start for you, then let me help pass it along. I think that's beautiful because a lot of guys, the one thing I've learned about men in trades, more so men than women. Women are happy to are happy to train, but men are very happy to train if you are willing to listen.
Mm-hmm.
If you are willing to listen, regurgitate back what they've told you and taught you, and have respect of what they're teaching you, not just be like, yeah, I know how to do it, but just listen. They, any and every guy will teach you how to do everything you need to learn how to do in a heartbeat. So
Totally.
I love that. And that was a teaching moment for both of you, which was amazing.
Yeah, and I think that's the case even getting into finance because sometimes you get paired up with when you're getting trained by someone who's a lot younger than I was at the time.
Hmm.
But I'm like, man, I'm like the one thing that I always kind of carried. I'm like, I've got life experience. I'm like, some of these guys don't have life experience. I'm like, you can't tell me you're 28 years old and have all these things, right? And
Yeah.
I was an ego held me back a lot at the beginning. And then I kind of like, man, you know what? I'm like, maybe maybe I have more life experience than this guy, but when you're making $1 million a year, I'm gonna let that ego go.
Yeah.
And hear what this guy has to say, and that kind of changed it changed a lot of my perspective, in a new field, right? I'm just like, man,
Yeah.
there's just because someone's younger than me who has something to say doesn't mean it's just wrong because I have more experience in other areas,
Well,
right?
I mean, and we all know this, especially when we were starting out. We've got a lot of drive, we've got a lot of ambition, we've got ego, we're excited. We're go get it, right? We're down to hit the ground running, and that's just who we are. But then the people that have been there longer, they have the wisdom of why you do the things you do and how. Now the nice thing is when you bring those two together, the younger one has an opportunity to maybe teach something from a different perspective of how they've learned it. In other words, a work smarter, not harder. And same with the seasoned skilled
Mm,
trade. They also have that opportunity to teach the work smarter, not harder. And I think together they can be a collaboration. There's more than one way to skin a cat, right? And so, I mean, some people might not like that term. I have cats. I love cats. Everyone calm down. But but you know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where um I've always found, like, people have said to me, "Oh, well, I know how to do this, you do it this way." And then another person will say, "Well, I do it this way." Another person will say, "Well, I do it this way." And I'm like, well, at the end of the day, is the result the same? And if they all go, "Yeah," I go, "Great. Then you all do it your own ways."
Mm.
Someone feels that this is more fast and efficient. Somebody else feels that this is, you know, slow and steady wins the race. But at the end of the day, you all have your own skill on how to do it, and it all comes with the same result. So why is it a problem? You know?
Yeah.
I don't think that there's the right way or the wrong. I mean, there is a right way and a wrong way. Let's be realistic. But when it comes down to the same result, there's no such thing as my way or the highway. I think that that's an old school ideal that needs to be gone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
But we're going to wrap up, Adam. I'm going to. I got a few things I got to do, and I know I do want to see you back on the show one of these days soon. So please hit me up, and we'll book in another one for next year. Have an amazing Christmas with your beautiful family, and
Absolutely.
I look forward to having a chat with you. So just hang tight, real quick, while I just wrap us up. So thank you, everybody, for joining us on another episode of Devil's Advocate Trades Edition with me, your host, Lisa McGrath. I look forward to seeing all of you on the next episode. For those of you that want to jump on the show, you can reach out to me at lisa@lpmenterprises.net, and we will book you in. Thanks so much, everybody, and I'll see you next time.